Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast. My name is Carolyn Woodard, and I am the Outreach Director for Community IT and the host of this program. I'm very happy today to be sitting down with my friend Norwin, who is going to tell us a little bit more about why it's so important to organize your files in the cloud, even though it's really easy not to have them organized. So, Norwin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Norwin Herrera. I am business IT manager, team lead, and I've been in community about 5 years, almost 5 years. Yep.
And you've said in the past when we were talking about doing this podcast that humans are messy and that storing files in the cloud makes it easier to access them, but much easier to be disorganized. And I know that many nonprofit staff think it's not a priority to organize cloud files, whether it's in SharePoint or Google Drive, because the search is getting better and better. And now we're getting AI search tools too. So can you share with us a few reasons why it's still important for nonprofits to stay organized online?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be the one saying the statement that humans are messy, but we are kind of messy, right? We're kind of messy. So because and this is something that I spoke with you before. When we are kids, right? When we were kids, we were not teach how to keep our files organized, right? When we went to school, we just got a handbook or a book to write notebook, right? And then another notebook. At least you're supposed to have 5 different notebooks, one per class, right? But still, you have a folder, a backpack, and you put everything in the backpack. You never organize things, so it's not a habit that we have. So it's not surprise that when we get older and we start working, and when we start working, right, we don't have a method to basically organize our stuff. And we're not in this particular case, we're talking about files, but let's think about other stuff that we don't organize, right? Our clothes, our kitchen, our whatever, you name it, right? So let's focus.
It's a struggle. The struggle is real.
And the struggle is real because nobody taught us when we were kids how to be organized. So that's something that important that we got to keep in mind. So if you want your kids to succeed in life, teach them how to be organized, right? And that will include files. Anyway, why is important, right? Why? Because there is always going to be a better way to find what you're looking for, So if you keep your files organized with a system, you need to have a method. You're not like, okay, save this file here, save this file here, save this file here. AI will, find it. It's possible they will find it. It's possible it will be found. But the thing is, if you don't have a methodology, you will find anything because the cloud is getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, messier, messier, messier. So you can find something that is in reality is not what you're looking for. So you're going to spend more time trying to find something that is supposed to be easy to find, and you're trusting the AI to find it for you. But if you don't have a good method of naming it, for example, you're not going to find it, right? So that's one. Another one is better way to implement file retention policies. So organizations, right, they need to have a file retention policy. Otherwise, they're going to keep storing and storing and storing. If you have an organization from 20 years, you're going to have files from 20 years ago. So the question right there is, do you have a policy, a retention policy, right? Community help our clients to build a retention policy. We don't tell you what to do, but we give you kind of an advice where you're supposed to be, right? So that is important to keep in mind, right? The other one is a better way to store what is important and save money, Okay, this is what's going to ring the bell in your mind, right? Files in the cloud still need to be backup. So you have files in a physical location and you needed to have a copy, a backup of it, because if something happens and then the recovery disaster happened, right? Where are the files? So in the cloud is the same thing. So if you keep storing and storing and storing in a disorganized way and you don't have a retention policy, that means your numbers are going high. So you are going to pay more money to back up data that is possible is not needed. So think about that. The second one is this: the cloud still needs a space. So space, meaning size of the data that you are storing, right? That is also money, right? And then obviously it's an easier way to make decisions. So when you find it, if you spend more time looking for something, that's time. Time equal money. So I just give you 3 reasons, right, to think about it before you start uploading files into the cloud without an organized way.
That really reminds me of, I had this conversation with someone a couple of years ago, actually, who said that it really is a human impulse to save, for example, old photographs, right? So a lot of nonprofits will have, like, even if it's organized in a folder, they'll have hundreds of photographs from, the gala in 2011. And no one wants to go through that folder and find the best photographs and actually save them, but they're very reluctant to get rid of that folder. When in reality, who wants photos from 2011 of who was at your gala in that year,
I mean,
right?
somebody might want 2 photos, no
Exactly. Not
400
hundreds.
photos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. But as you said, you're paying to store them, you're paying to back them up. And those photos, files could be, can get very large if it's a large folder of hundreds of photos. So
Yep.
that
And
is a
then
good reason.
if the person is moving from, I mean, if the organization is moving from physical servers to cloud servers, that space that you have in a physical server, right, it's exactly the same space you will have in the cloud. And that disorganization in the server is going to be the same disorganization in the cloud.
And I
So,
have heard also, I listened to a podcast recently about this idea that AI is going to solve all of our data problems for us. And the person that was doing this podcast was saying, if your files aren't labeled, then AI isn't going to be able to find them a lot easier than you would be able to find them. It's going to find the wrong things. The more accurately you have labeled all of your files, the better AI is going to work on them. So, given all of those reasons, Norwin, that it's important to be organized online, can you talk a little bit about the responsibility of nonprofit leaders toward file organization policies and expectations?
okay, I will try, right? I just gave you some elements: organization, time, and retention policies. Those are important. So, who are the responsible for those elements in a nonprofit organization? The leaders, right? They need to be they need to be the ones creating the methodology, and also to make sure that it is a clear policy, right? It's a clear way to say, hey, this is the way you store files in this organization, and this is the way that you leave them when you leave from the organization. Remember, organizations are moving targets, right? You're not going to stay in an organization forever. There's some people who stay for a long time, right? But not everybody in the company and the organization stay there. So if you don't have a good retention policy, or you don't have a really good way to keep files in an organized way, that data sometimes get lost. So losing data that is important represents work, and then you have to rebuild what maybe was already done. But since you didn't have a really good policy to save files, people just leave the organization. You just back up the data or convert it to a shared mailbox, and then it's gone. How do you find it? There's no way to find it, right? So I think that is a responsibility, and sometimes the leaders at the organizations don't take that responsibility, because honestly speaking, it is humongous. You know what I mean? Like, it is complicated, but somebody needs to make it. Somebody needs to make it. Somebody needs to make it happen. So I do not know who, but I think it has to be a leadership decision to say, hey, we need to take this important task. And it's only going to be one time, because when you organize it and it takes you a long time and you invest a lot of money in it, because time is money, right? So when you invest this amount of time to organize your file, you will make sure to keep it organized for future, right? So that is important. It's a one-time thing. Remember, personal files owned by the organization are stored in Google Drive or OneDrive, right? So Google has Google Drive. That's your personal folder for the organization. So personal means it's yours, but it's not yours because it's owned by the organization. And then you have the OneDrive folder, which is personal folder. Only you can see it and only you can share, but it's owned by the organization still, right? So the other piece of it, which is the one that the organization leaders should be aiming for, is the share files, right? This is space when you can share documents and everybody can collaborate and you can keep them there for some time. So that's called Google Workspace. And the other one is called SharePoint. I think we have plenty of those webinars explaining about it. So if you're looking for that information, make a search in our communityit.com website and you will find those webinars.
Yes, we do have some materials on SharePoint and on Google Drive and ways to manage them. And since it is so important to keep your shared files organized in the cloud, but it's so easy to be disorganized. And I think sometimes, like the leaders, also the people with institutional knowledge, like the person who's been at your organization for 20 years, when they retire, you're going to lose all of that knowledge that they had, especially if they haven't been keeping their files in shared folders where everyone will have access to that information later on. So, do you have advice for nonprofit leaders who are kind of thinking about this huge project on how to make it a priority and how to take some steps to get started organizing your nonprofit's files and keeping them organized?
Yeah, sure. I'll try my best to give at least 5 or 6 points. The first one is find somebody who can own the project and can make it happen, right? So find a person in your organization that has the capacity to understand that this is a huge task, but if they accomplish it, it's going to be a huge milestone for the organization, right? So that's the first key element. Second one, avoid saving unnecessary documents. So if documents are not needed, like we were talking about photos, right? Videos and, draft of files, right? Sometimes you make a 7 draft and now you don't need to make those drafts anymore, because if you are collaborating, basically in the moment that you're editing the file itself is creating different versions of it. So that's something new. So you don't need to create 10 different versions of it. You just create one version and keep writing on it, and then you can go to the historical view and you can go back and find what you're looking for. So it's no need to create unnecessary documents. The other one is follow a consistent method of naming your files and folders. That is key, right? I do keep namings for the things that I save in my file, and most of the time they replicate because it's the same thing that I do every day, right? So and I keep records of my clients, so I know what the files are because of that classification that I made. Something very, very important, for example, you can have an archive folder. That's a good one. You can have a miscellaneous folder, right? You can have a social media or media file folder, right? You got 3 of them. And then you can have maybe budget folders and then reports. With that, you got 5 of them. Very easy to identify, very easy to keep, right? Besides that, I mean, I don't remember. I cannot think about something that is not in those files and folders. And then the other one is store related documents together, whatever type they are, right? So reports, go ahead and reports, all of them right there. And then when you search for it, you will find the reports. So that is important. Separate ongoing work with completed work. That's a maybe, right? Because it's a moving piece when you're working in a file. So you can have a final version of it, and keep it there. The other one is avoid overfilling folders, right? That's a maybe, but now with the this unlimited space in the cloud, we think it's unlimited, but it has limit. But this amount of space in the cloud, people start like just putting everything in one folder. So everything in one folder is not going to help you, So that's important to keep in mind.
That sounds great. Some other tips that I've heard are, for example, we were talking about the photographs, old photographs. So if you have some kind of a deadline coming up or like an anniversary year, like you said, you might assign a person to find all of the photographs over time, pull out the best ones, make a folder of here's our anniversary, through the years photos, and get rid of the rest of them, right? And that could be something where, like, the anniversary gala for your 25th anniversary is going to be in December. So you have somebody start working on it in the summer, just talking to people, getting the photographs, going through the files and finding them, but then also task them with get rid of the folders that you don't choose. Get rid of the files that you don't need for this. Like, choose the best photos and then label that file. So at the 30th anniversary, the 50th anniversary, you can go back and find those photos that are the good ones.
Yeah, that is true.
So finally, we mentioned AI tools earlier. In your experience, what are the changes you are seeing with AI tools our clients are starting to use? And how do you think AI tools are going to change at IT at nonprofits in the next few years? Are there steps that nonprofit leaders should be taking now to prepare for those opportunities and risks from AI tools?
Yes, that's a very interesting topic. That's a very hot topic, right? Everybody's talking about AI. I went into the internet and I made a search about this, trying to find a good answer. There's no good answer for this one because AI is changing so much that it's very hard to keep track of what is coming, what is going on, right? And the first thing I will say is start adjusting your policy, your personal bring your own device policy, we call it BYOD. That is important. Include AI elements on it, right? Include the AI elements in your policy. That's the first thing that each organization should do, right? Just to keep your mind, just to keep yourself safe, right? As an organization. And then the other one is people think that AI will solve all the problems. That is not true because garbage in, garbage out, right? AI only can create and generate data from the data that exists, right? I don't think AI is going, I mean, it's possible it will in the future create their own data. And I think I read something about it. But I was in a conference in March, and in this conference, it was a key speaker, and this person was talking about the use of technology, in this particular case, something similar to AI, that is going to replace humans. It is true that in some cases it might replace a human doing some work, but that doesn't mean the human is not needed. The human only is going to be placed in a different position to do another task that it was not done before. You know what I mean? So that is important to have in mind. Like, AI is not going to replace us completely, right? It's always going to need us. And that is the misconception. People think AI will do everything. The last one is maybe a personal way to think about technology. What about the mark on the planet, right? I read that AI is consuming more water than cryptocurrency, those servers, because those requires more work, and more work means heating up, and heating up requires water to cool off. So that is important to keep in mind too, right? What is the mark that we're doing in the planet? So if we want to help the planet and AI, let's organize our file easier. So when AI is searching for it, it's going to find it faster, right? So if you might not think it this way, but it's a way to put it there. If you keep your file organized, you're going to help the planet, because AI or any search engine is going to find it faster for you. So that is important to keep in mind.
Those are all good things to think about. I had a friend who was telling me about, she's retired now, but she was working in an office as a typist and got really interested in word processing when word processing was coming along. And that was another reflection point where people said, oh, we won't need any secretaries anymore because we'll just have these word processors. And a lot of things changed, but no, we still have secretaries and people who need to create documents and share those documents. So thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts about ways to keep organized when you are sharing files in the cloud, and why it's so important for nonprofit leaders to take leadership over their nonprofit policies around organization in the cloud. Thank you so much, Norwin.
You're very welcome. Always. I'm ready here for any question if you guys have an extra one.
Thanks.
Okay.
Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.